we have a real chance at this new world order, an order in which a credible United Nations can use its peacekeeping role to fulfill the promise and vision of the UN's founders.
There's no reason someone needs a weapon of war with 100 rounds, 100 bullets that can be fired from that weapon. Nobody needs that. Nobody needs that.
April 18, 1775, British soldiers marched to Concord to seize an arms cache that had been stockpiled by colonial militiamen. The two sides clashed at the Battle of Lexington and Concord, marking the first formal battle of the Revolutionary War.
Ukrainian civilians are now bearing arms as Russian troops continue to sweep through the country. Here, the military are handing out guns to anyone who wants to join the fight. According to the Ministry of Defense, 18,000 machine guns have been handed out to Kiev volunteers. Molotov cocktails have been prepared, ready for the approaching army. Videos on social media showing other atrocities. In Obolon, a tank smashing into a civilian car.
Got him! Got him!
We can. President Biden yesterday to say about the cyber attack against Russian troops to switch off his electricity, to redirect all the tank troops, and this is extremely important. And this is extremely important for us, that we feel that we are not alone, that you are together with us.
To every Ukrainian, their fearlessness, their courage, their determination literally inspires the world. Groups of citizens blocking tanks with their bodies. Everyone from students to retirees to teachers turned soldiers defending their homeland. And in this struggle, President Zelensky said in his speech to the European Parliament, "Light will win over darkness." It's just bizarre to suggest that some of the things we're recommending are contrary to the Constitution.
The Union and factcheck.org, and today we're going to take a look at a claim made by Democratic presidential nominee and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton about the landmark 2008 Heller U.S. Supreme Court decision about guns. Take a listen.
You mentioned the Heller decision, and what I was saying that you referenced, Chris, was that I disagreed with the way the court applied the Second Amendment in that case, because what the District of Columbia was trying to do was to protect toddlers from guns.
Is that true? Was the Heller decision about the D.C. gun law, was that mainly about trying to protect toddlers from guns? No, that is not true.
2 years ago, in District of Columbia versus Heller, we held that the Second Amendment protects an individual right to keep and bear arms in the home for purposes of self-defense.
Tonight, we meet as Democrats, Republicans, and Independents, but most importantly, as Americans, with the duty to one another, to America, to the American people, and to the Constitution, and an unwavering resolve that freedom will always triumph over tyranny.
The Second Amendment to the Constitution, which is part of our Bill of Rights, reads, "A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed."
Hell yes, we're going to take your AR-15, your AK-47.
Welcome to the rice fields, motherfucker.
And will do everything in my power to crack down on gun trafficking of ghost guns that you can buy online, assemble at home, no serial numbers, can't be traced. I asked Congress to pass proven measures to reduce gun violence, pass universal background checks. Why should anyone on the terrorist list be able to purchase a weapon? Why? Why? And folks, ban assault weapons with high-capacity magazines will hold up to 100 rounds. You think the deer are wearing Kevlar vests?
That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is in the right of the people to alter or abolish it. and to institute new government. The history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries, all having in direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states.
We're the only nation on earth that has always turned every crisis we've faced into an opportunity.
Right now, people should not be walking. There's no reason to be walking around with a mask. When you're in the middle of an outbreak, wearing a mask might make people feel a little bit better, and it might even block a droplet, but it's not providing the perfect protection that people think that it is.
Nothing I'm about to recommend in any way impinges on the Second Amendment. They're phony arguments suggesting that these are Second Amendment rights at stake.
A 51-day siege by U.S. law enforcement, with deadly gun battles, terror from the air, and a raging inferno that left more than 75 people dead, including many women and children.
The Ukrainian government is literally handing out guns to citizens, and authorities are encouraging people to make their own Molotov cocktails and prepare for what could be a long, ugly insurgency.
Everybody just wants to rip each other apart, watch it on TV.
A lot of people think that we're like burning our city down and we're rioting and destroying everything. I mean, I think there's some level of truth to that.
I urge my colleagues in the House and Senate to act. We can ban assault weapons and high-capacity magazines in this country once again. I got that done when I was a senator.
Soldiers are camped inside the Capitol building for the first time since the Civil War. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi addressed a detachment in the shadow of the Capitol, while other members of Congress handed out pizzas. Airbnb is canceling all Washington area bookings to ensure hate group members are not part of the Airbnb community. Former New York and LA Police Chief Bill Bratton.
We are in a very critical time in our nation's history where we have to have 20,000 National Guard, 10,000 law enforcement at the inauguration to maintain security.
I know this has been a hobby horse of mine for a long time. Got it done once. We should also ban assault weapons and high-capacity magazines in this country.
Solemn and grim day here in the nation's capital, where it feels like an occupying force has taken control.
This is to protect the country, not from a threat like we saw in 2001 with Osama bin Laden radicalizing people to come to the United States to harm us. It's to protect from a president of the United States and his enablers radicalizing Americans.
This is the Ukrainian Revolutionary War. This is their 1776.
Soldiers and airmen being brought into this area. We were told by the National Guard a while ago via a statement they put out that they were bringing in airmen and soldiers to reinforce the Capitol Police.
It's sad to see the everyday person having to take up arms and fight like this for their country. It's inspiring, but it's sad at the same time.
Today we see every Ukrainian is willing to defend his family and his country, so they are very much motivated and they want to get organized, and they have a right to get organized and to resist Russian aggression.
I figured, I'd come and help. I want to see Kiev and Ukraine keep their sovereignty. Ukraine has been the one nation that, in this sea of communism, has said, no, we're going to be sovereign, we'll be our own nation, our own people.
Politically, I'm an anarcho-communist and I'm an anti-fascist.
remember this.
Gun control. You wrote in 2008 the opinion in District of Columbia v. Heller, the majority opinion that said the Second Amendment means what it says. People have a right to bear arms.
Morning, President Biden meeting with NATO allies as he faces the greatest global test of his presidency so far, Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine.
Putin is the aggressor. Putin chose this war. And now he and his country will bear the consequences.
The president unveiling sweeping new sanctions against Russia, including cutting off Russian banks and companies from the West, targeting Russia's defense industry by restricting technology exports, and freezing trillions of dollars of assets held by Russian elites with close ties to Putin. Still, the president stopping short of sanctioning Putin himself and revealing some European allies are divided over whether to cut off Russia from SWIFT, the international banking system in more than 200 countries. The president pressed by Peter Alexander whether he's done enough.
Respectfully, sir, what more are you waiting for?
The sanctions we've imposed exceed SWIFT. The sanctions we imposed exceed anything that's ever been done.
Republicans and even some Democrats stepping up their calls on the president to go even further with sanctions.
In 2001, Goldman Sachs predicted that a group of developing and newly industrialized countries could come to dominate Western economies. Since then, those countries have exploded in growth and changed the landscape of world politics. So what are BRICS countries? BRICS is an acronym for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Those 5 countries comprise nearly half of the world's population, a quarter of the world's landmass, and a fifth of the world's GDP. Their combined GDP is nearly that of the United States and growing. A major aspect of their alliance is the formation of the New Development Bank to compete with the IMF and the World Bank. This gives them greater leeway to loan each other and other countries money for development unrestricted by Western influence.
And all they're waiting for is for you to pass this bill. So let's not wait any longer. Send it to my desk, I'll sign it, and we'll really take off in a big way.